Why do some ideas thrive while others die? Why can you recall a random urban legend from 20 years ago but not last week's presentation? Here's the kicker. It's not about intelligence or effort. It's about how your ideas are designed. In the book Made to Stick with Chip and Dan Heath, they crack the code on what ideas are unforgettable, transforming the art of communication into a science. This book, through six simple principles, which are simplicity, unexpectedness, concreteness, credibility, emotion, and stories, give you a toolkit for crafting ideas that break through the noise, stick in people's minds, and move them to act. They also provide you the number one enemy of getting your ideas to stick, which is the curse of knowledge, the inability to remember what it's like to not know something. And we've all been there, talking in jargon, overloading people in facts, or wondering why our brilliance, quite frankly, fell flat. So, ready to make your ideas impossible to ignore? Well, then let's get sticky. Welcome to the Good Leadership Podcast, where we explore the stories, strategies, and insights of thought leaders who inspire us to think differently and lead better. Through candid conversations and expert perspectives, we dive into the challenges, breakthroughs, and practical lessons that shape exceptional leadership. The first step is simplicity of the success framework. That's the S, not to be confused with oversimplification. Simplicity is about distilling the complex into something digestible, like reducing a 3-hour director's cut into a TikTok that slaps. Think of the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. 10 words, infinite wisdom, yet somehow we all fail to heed this advice the moment we hit rush hour traffic, because apparently cutting people off is our love language. And it's not just ditching the bad stuff, but it's also the good stuff so that the great stuff can shine. Take Southwest Airlines, for example. Their founder, Herb Keller, their no-nonsense founder, summed up their entire business model with one statement: we are the low-fare airline. That's it. No frills, no salad, just cheap seats and bad pretzels. Now, simplicity isn't just about what you do, it's about how you say it. Journalists nail this concept with the inverted pyramid style. Lead with the juicy bits, they say, add fluff later. The majority of us, however, write emails that start with, "I hope this email finds you well," followed by 400 words of foreplay before getting to the actual point. By the time you're done, your reader is already binge watching some show on Netflix. So pro tip here is don't bury the lead. If your message matters, it doesn't need to be drawn out in a preamble. It needs to have that mic drop moment right from the start. And of course, simplicity has a mortal enemy, and that is feature creep. It's the insidious voice whispering. What if we just add one more thing? And suddenly your sleek idea is a bloated mess. Think about the Palm Pilot team. I know I'm dating myself. When they were developing the Palm Pilot, because they knew the temptation all too well. Their goal was to create a device to fit into your pocket and do 4 things: calendar, contacts, memos, and tasks. Today's iPhone does a lot more, and thankfully so. But in order to keep the team on track, their leader literally had to carry a block of wood the size of a Palm Pilot. And anytime someone pitched a new feature, he'd state, "Where does this fit?" as he brought out that piece of wood. Honestly, the man deserves a monument. Another simplicity superpower is analogies. These bad boys take complicated concepts and wrap them in pop culture references that everyone can understand. For example, describing a pomelo as a large citrus fruit with thick rind and spicy sweet flesh sounds like a farmer's dating profile. But let's call it a supersized grapefruit, and suddenly we all produce that head nod that we get it. Hollywood thrives on this trick. Take movies like Speed with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. I know, once again, I'm dating myself. What's the pitch? Well, the pitch should be something that they already are familiar with. So think Die Hard on a bus. Boom. Instantly, you know Keanu Reeves, explosions, and bad guys. Not some slow-paced indie film about Greyhound timetables. Simplicity sells, people. Keep it short, keep it sharp, and when in doubt, ask yourself, where does it fit? Principle number 2, the U in the success framework, unexpectedness. How do you get your audience to actually pay attention and, more importantly, keep it long enough to make your point? In a world where people are more likely to swipe past your life's work than watch a 10-second TikTok, that is no small task. And if you've ever felt the crushing defeat of losing an audience halfway through a presentation, or perhaps halfway through your sentence, then congratulations, you're human. But don't despair quite yet. There's a not so secret weapon that we can use to rescue even the dullest delivery, and that's surprise. The kind of surprise that makes people blink twice, sit up, and maybe even stop scrolling. So, step one, break the pattern. Here's the thing: humans are wired to tune out anything predictable. It's a survival mechanism. Our brains are lazy energy savers. Predictable equals safe. When something unexpected happens, it's like the emergency override for our brain. Suddenly, we're forced to pay attention. Think about the last time something caught your attention. Maybe a coworker dropped a killer one-liner in a dull meeting, or your barista randomly upgraded your coffee to a venti for free. Whatever it is, it stood out because it wasn't what you expected, and now it's burned into your memory. That's why unexpected ideas stick. They interrupt the autopilot mode our brains love so much. Take Nordstrom, for example, that famous retailer. Every retailer loves to brag about world class customer service. But Nordstrom's backs it up with jaw dropping stories, like the employee who gift wrapped items from another store, or the one who ironed a customer's shirt for a last minute meeting. Now, that's how you get attention. And also, that's where I can find someone to iron my shirts. So, surprise gets your audience to look up from their phones. But let's be real, it won't last long unless you keep them intrigued. And that's where curiosity comes into play. Surprise is like that flashy trailer for the movie. Curiosity is what gets people to buy the ticket. So let's talk about the gap theory of curiosity. Simply put, curiosity happens when we notice a gap between what we know and what we want to know, and there's that mental itch that's created that you have to scratch. The trick is to open the gap before you close it, but too often we skip straight to facts. But facts only stick if people already care enough to listen. You've got to make them curious, make them feel that mental itch first. But if you want to keep your audience hooked, here are some foolproof ways to spark that I need to know feeling. First, ask a question or pose a puzzle. Start with a question your audience doesn't know the answer to, like, why are some people naturally better at negotiation? Or what's that secret ingredient in Coca-Cola success? Suddenly, they're all ears because they have to know. Two, make them jealous of someone else's knowledge. People hate feeling left out of the loop. It's why cliffhangers work so well. What happens next? Find out in our next episode. Your job is to plant that idea that someone else knows something your audience doesn't. Curiosity will do the rest. Number three, create unresolved situations. Nothing grips attention quite like an unresolved story. Elections, championship games, murder mysteries, they all leave us hanging, desperate to know how it ends. And then number four, challenge their predictions. Ask your audience to guess an outcome, then dangle the answer just out of reach. So there you have it. The next time you need to grab attention and hold on to it for dear life, remember, surprise them, open up a curiosity gap, and let their brains do the rest. And maybe, throw in that Nordstrom level story for good measure. If nothing else, it'll distract them from checking their notifications. The third principle, concreteness. How do you make your ideas clear? Because the more abstract your idea, the faster it's going to float away into the abyss of forgotten things. Why? Because abstraction is slippery. It's like trying to catch a greased watermelon. Go ahead, try it. You can't. Concrete ideas, on the other hand, are sticky. They're like Velcro, hooking our brains with vivid details. Think about a proverb, such as, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. It's not just a metaphor, it's an image. You see the bird, you feel it in your hand, you can even imagine that frustration of trying to catch those two elusive birds. Now compare that to something abstract like, it's better to value what you have. Yawn. One sticks, the other slips right through your mental fingers. So if concreteness is so powerful, why do we keep slipping into abstraction? Well, blame the experts. No offense to experts, they're great at what they do. But here's the thing. Experts think abstractly because they've spent years building patterns and insights in their field. Take chess, for example. A novice sees a bishop as a piece that moves diagonally. An expert looks at it as part of a grand strategy. Naturally, experts want to talk about that strategy. But the rest of us are still trying to figure out why that horse or the knight moves in that weird L shape. The lesson, speak at your audience's level. If you want your message to resonate, you've got to make it concrete. And here's the litmus test. If you can experience it with your senses, it's concrete. A V8 engine, concrete. High performance, abstract. A great example of this is what Boeing did in the 1960s. They set out to build the 727, and their goal was to revolutionize passenger travel. But they gave very concrete criteria for what they wanted in this plane. They wanted it to seat 131 passengers, fly nonstop from Miami to New York City, and land on a short runway. That's concrete. Every engineer knew exactly what they were aiming for. Compare that to build the best passenger plane in the world. The best? Best how? Best for whom? Good luck in building that. The more tangible and specific your ideas, the more they're going to resonate and the more likely they are to inspire action. Principle 4, credibility. Let's face it, even the most brilliant ideas fall flat if nobody believes in them. But how do we make our ideas credible? Well, we could borrow some authority or expert, someone with framed credentials, and hope their reputation does the heavy lifting. After all, if Oprah likes it, it's got to be good, right? But what happens when you don't have an expert or a celebrity to back it up? That's when we need internal credibility, the ability to make our ideas as believable on their own. So let's dive into 4 powerful strategies for building credibility that sticks. First, start with the easy one. That's details. A person's knowledge of details often serves as a proxy for their expertise. Suddenly, they're the most credible person in the room. Details just don't make the person credible, they make the idea credible as well. Imagine someone telling you popcorn is unhealthy. Okay. Now imagine a medium bag of movie theater popcorn has 37 grams of saturated fat. That's more than an entire day's worth of unhealthy eating. Yikes, that lands a little differently, doesn't it? Details bring ideas to life. They turn vague claims into tangible truths. So if you want your message to stick, don't skip on the details. Paint the full picture. Next, statistics. They're like kale. You know, that thing that people hate to eat, but it's really good for them? The problem is that stats on their own rarely mean much. Numbers don't stick. Relationships do. Next, let's move to the Sinatra test. You know that song, if I can make it there, I can make it anywhere. The idea is simple. One example can be so powerful and so definitive that it establishes credibility all on its own. Take Fort Knox. If your security company guards Fort Knox, you don't have to list every strip mall and bank you've ever worked security for. Fort Knox says it all. Similarly, if you've catered a White House dinner, people will assume you can handle their wedding. The Sinatra test works because it's specific and undeniable. So if you have one shiny example that screams, I know what I'm doing, then lead with it. And finally, let's talk about testable credentials, claims so concrete that your audience can verify them for themselves. Remember Wendy's Where's the Beef campaign? They didn't just say their burgers were bigger, they implicitly challenged customers to check for themselves. They said, go to McDonald's, look at their burgers, then look at ours. The difference will be obvious. Testable credentials are powerful because they invite your audience to play the role of investigator. It's like saying, don't take my word for it, see for yourself. This transparency builds trust because people feel empowered to confirm your claims. The next principle, emotion, the E. People care about themselves. Shocking, I know. But it's also incredibly useful because if you want to make people care about your message, you have to start by answering one simple question. What's in it for them? Advertisers have known this for decades. Legendary ad man John Caples turned self-interest into an art form. His headlines were brilliant at promising big benefits with minimal effort, such as, you can laugh at money worries if you follow this simple plan, or give me 5 days and I'll give you a magnetic personality. Notice the trend? Every single word of these headlines screams, this will make your life better. And here's the kicker. Caples didn't waste time talking about features. He focused on benefits because, as you should know, people don't buy quarter-inch drill bits. They buy quarter-inch holes. Why? To hang their kids' pictures. So it's not the tool that matters, it's what the tool does for them. So if you're crafting a message, don't bury self-interest. Put it front and center. And for the love of all things sticky, don't say, people will enjoy a sense of security when they use my product. Say, you will enjoy a sense of security when you use my product. Now, what happens when self-interest isn't enough? Here's where it gets interesting. People sometimes care more about their group's identity than their own. Think about it. When we vote, we just don't ask what's in it for me. We also ask what's in it for people like me, whether it's race, class, religion, or even your favorite sports team. Our group affiliations shape what we care about. And that's where the magic happens. If your message aligns with someone's group identity, you've got their attention. If it doesn't or goes against their group's values, good luck. It's like trying to sell tofu to a steakhouse crowd. So here's the takeaway. If you want to make people care, figure out their we. What group do they identify with? What matters to that group? And tap into those shared values. And your messages will resonate on a much deeper level. The final principle in the success framework is stories. Stories do two things exceptionally well. They simulate experiences so we don't have to learn the hard way by ourselves, and they inspire us so we become motivated to do something with that knowledge. Basically, they're the original life hacks before YouTube tutorials and TED Talks, which make us feel much smarter than we actually are. Stories are the user manuals of life, but here's the real magic. Stories don't just teach us how to act, they make us want to act. And the best ones have three powerful types of plots. First, the challenge plot. This is your classic underdog story. David versus Goliath, the 1980 hockey team taking down the Soviets, or Jared versus the fast food industry. Challenge plots make us root for the little guy, reminding us that persistence beats the odds. They whisper, if they can do it, well, maybe I can too. And just like that, we're inspired to fight our own battles, whether it's training for a marathon or just trying to get through Monday without crying into our coffee. Second type of plot, connection plots. So while challenge plots are about overcoming obstacles, connection plots are about overcoming differences. Think The Good Samaritan. Remember the Titans, that movie, or the iconic Coca-Cola ad back in the 70s where a little boy gives Mean Joe Green a Coke, melting that icy exterior of a football giant. These stories remind us that deep down we all crave human connection. The third type of plot is the creativity plot. So if the challenge plot is about courage and the connection plot is about heart, well, then the creativity plot is all about brains. This is a MacGyver level problem-solving magic type plot, where someone turns an impossible situation into a win with sheer ingenuity. Think Apollo 13 engineers figuring out how to save those astronauts with duct tape and hope, or the movie The Martian, where Matt Damon survives on Mars. These stories inspire us to approach problems differently, to ditch conventional thinking and innovate our ways out of trouble, or at least impress people at work. So the next time you're crafting a message, whether it's a pitch, a presentation, or just trying to get the kids to do their homework, think of this success framework. SUCCESS. First, is my idea simple? Second, does it surprise? 3, is it concrete? Next, is it credible? Does it have emotional elements? And most importantly, does it tell a story? Nail those, and congrats, you've got yourself a sticky idea. And if all else fails, just add a story about a kitten rescue. That works every time. I hope this episode has provided you with valuable insights. If it has, I ask you to share it with someone who would also benefit from it. If you've been enjoying and gaining knowledge from this podcast, then subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can find all the previous episodes of the podcast and additional learning resources. You can also subscribe to the podcast on Apple or Spotify and leave up to a 5-star review.